Yeah, well, yeah, I haven't got anything from him yet, and I also know that there is a freezing rain watch tonight, but it's still just raining, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, the freezing rain for us is going to be a little bit north of us, just a
Really?
tad,
You guys,
hopefully.
you guys getting it too, huh?
Yeah, like all right, so you're like is in Toronto, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm in Portland, and if you put a ruler on a map, we're like right even with each other.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
actually,
So I mean,
Ricky just said, yeah, sorry, sick baby. Did you guys already start? Not
we're
yet.
recording, but we can wait if he's going to be here soon.
How about, I think his sick baby, so we might as well start.
Okay, just tell him we started, and if he wants to join in, he can join in.
Okay,
Ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's get to the short notes. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Untitled Podcast for March 23rd, 2016. I'm your host this week, Matthew Weber, and I'm joined this week by Mr. Vincent Hoy.
Hello.
Ricky's off with a sick baby. He might be here, he might not be here. We just wish his baby to get better because that little kid has had a lot of problems, at least from the emails I've been getting.
Yeah.
All right, anyways. Little Ricky, please get better. I don't know, what's Ricky's name? Kid's name, is it Gabrielle?
I think so. Oh man.
How sad is that? You know, we don't even know his name. We don't even know Ricky's name. Ricky's not even his name. You know?
That's exactly it. That's what I was gonna say. Ricky is not his name.
He's gonna end up being known by something else. All right. Anyways, so this is the show where we pick a movie, we review it, we give a score, and then we talk about other things. So the movie of the week this week is a John Grisham movie. Runaway Jury is the name of the film. It stars John Cusack, Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, Rachel Weisz. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
And then it has a whole bunch of B actors that you see in a whole bunch of other movies, like the
Mexican guy.
yeah, and then the one guy who goes into Nicholas Easter's apartment first.
Yeah.
He's in a whole bunch of different movies.
Yeah.
He's never going to star in anything, but he's just he's all over the damn place. So anyways, it has a very, as Vince was saying before we started recording, it has a very grand ensemble cast. Now this isn't the only John Grisham film that Gene Hackman's in. He's also in The Firm.
Yes.
He's also in The Chamber. Have you ever seen The Chamber?
Is The Firm the one with the little boy?
No. The Firm is Tom Cruise, and basically he gets recruited into a Tennessee law firm that's actually a front for the mob, the Chicago mob. And then it's called Corrupt Lawyers and all that kind of stuff. It's not a fantastic movie. I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan when he's in serious films without ass kicking. He's kind of like Jason Statham in that if he's going to be a movie, he better kick somebody's ass. He's not a very good actor otherwise.
Okay.
And totally off topic. Anyway, so this movie is about jury tampering and gun rights, I guess. So there's a trial after some guy went postal in a stock brokerage house, killed like 11 people, and then the movie itself is based around a civil trial. Mm-hmm. And Nicholas Easter, who is played by John Cusack, is put onto the jury, and basically he's partnered with like his girlfriend or wife or somebody, and they're influencing both the lawyers and the jury consultants to try to influence which way the jury swings. They're trying to they want jury consultants to buy the jury. And it turns out,
is that really a thing though? I just want to be clear about this because again, I'm a good old Canadian, so we don't know how this works, like judicial system.
I'm sure it's happened, but I mean, so there's always been stories of jury. There's usually it's not high profile, but there's a lot of especially back in the 70s and 80s when a lot of the mob trials were going on. There's always a lot of stories there around jury tampering, and so there was this one in the 70s. I can't remember what mobster it was, but he kidnapped the jury foreman's daughter, and then held her hostage, and saying you vote the jury needs to come back hung, if you want to ever see your daughter again. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So obviously this is more dramatic than any of that kind of stuff, I suppose, because Nicholas Easter's character is trying to he's trying to influence both sides of it, but in reality he was always going to swing it towards the I guess the prosecution or the
plaintiff, yeah.
The plaintiff, yeah. So I mean, it was always going to go that way. But their goal was to get the money from the defense, but still swing it to the plaintiff side, even if the defense didn't pay or did pay or whatever. It didn't matter. It was always going to go towards, because the Nicholas Easter and his girlfriend or whatever, played by Rachel Weisz, is they were like in a school or whatever that was shot up by the same company's gun in like Cincinnati or Cleveland or something. So that's the basic layout of the story, and it ends with just the way you'd expect it to end, with the
happy end.
Yeah, so they get the money and they're going to take all the $10 million or $15 million or whatever it is and take it back and put it into their community, and the plaintiff wins. The lady whose husband died. Yeah. Anyway, so that's how it ends. Vince, what did you think of this movie?
Okay, I think that, again, I was just commenting to Matt earlier that the movie is based in the American judicial system, which is, again, I'm not all too familiar with the idiosyncrasies of it. Like, there were some points in the process that I had big questions about, pertaining to, I don't know some of the amendments. I don't know, like I said just a second ago, I'm not sure if there was such thing as a real juror consultant. Like in the Canadian system, the two opposing
lawyers, those are real. Okay. Jury consultants are real. They're not an official part. So like if I got sued, I'm not going to have, like, my lawyer's not going to hire a jury consultant because, like, I'm dirt poor. You know what I mean? But for like the
big corporates,
big corporate civil lawsuits and things where there's millions and millions or billions of dollars at stake or whatever, jury consultants are a real thing.
Okay, because my thing was that in Canada, because I've actually been called up for jury a couple of times, and I've been fortunate enough to be racist, so I never get selected. Which is incidentally why if John Cusack was really interested in not being on the jury, he could have just dropped, like, he should have dropped like the N word or something and just said, oh, I didn't know, right? But when I've been called up to jury, I've been asked a couple of questions by the actual lawyers on the defense and on the plaintiff, like just very basic questions, like, have you ever gone to school? Like, I mean, simple questions that are not like, have you ever been mugged or anything? Like, or what do you think about black people or something? But it's like, you don't know the case because they're just testing out the waters, right? So it'll be like, have you been to school? What do you like about your work, right? I mean, it's really weird questions, but it assesses whether or not you're crazy, right? But in the American system, I was like so surprised to see that there's a jury consultant, right? And then, of course, all the idiosyncrasies of how law works. I mean, I'll be quite frank with you. I was really reluctant to watch this movie, Matt, because I hate watching legal dramas, right? Because they're boring. And I mean, quite frankly, if I want to watch something like this, I'd watch like Law and Order, right? Like, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's boring. I agree with that.
Only thing that was interesting about this was the cast. Like, I mean, the little tensions between all the people and like like I got to give credit to the like B or C list actors that were in the jury, because to do the little nuanced things for then John Cusack to document and say, well, this, and this, or for, Gene Hackman to go, you know what, this guy did this. So I picked up on the fact that, oh yeah, this guy's got, she's the wife of a pastor. And of course she had an abortion with, someone that wasn't even the pastor, like that kind of stuff. It's all those little things that I got to give a nod to the acting. I mean, that's pretty decent. I was also commenting to Matt that there's some technical issues that, again, it's not even a matter of whether or not those systems work. It's just a matter of whether or not those things exist. I think that the premise of having a gun with the inability to retain fingerprints, I was never aware of this kind of material. I'm not sure if that's actually the case. There's a part in the movie where the character of Dustin Hoffman on the plaintiff's case is arguing with I think it's the CEO or something of the gun company. I don't know, but he's basically saying,
the beginning of the movie where they're all the CEOs are.
Yeah, at the end, and towards the middle end, when they're like
where he's holding like a gun or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know which one that guy is, but basically there's a point when Dustin Hoffman's like pressuring the guy and going, look, man, these are ads from your gun of your guns, and it says basically these guns don't retain fingerprints. What other purpose would you have a gun for, if not criminal activity, to advertise that it doesn't retain fingerprints, right? So as a result, I just found that, that who would ever make a gun like this, and who would ever make a gun and advertise it that way? So that was another one of those leap of faiths. And then I guess the last bit was just at the end, I thought it was really strange that, you could have all these, all these jurors just switch over, and then, have that one Marine guy. Do you remember the Marine, Matt?
Frank.
Yeah, when like they were all arguing, and like, again, I've never been on a real jury, but like I just found it really weird that, one guy can just kind of derail the conversation, go like, look, man, that woman, she's just like, basically equivalent to like a gold digger. She's just like trying to win money for herself, but I've worked my butt off. My buddy's got amputees and stuff like that. We shouldn't have this. And there's this huge discussion. And the guy at the Marine just goes, I think the Marine or whatever, but he's like, screw it. It's just not fair, and screw the law, right? And I was like, you know what? If you've been sequestered with your jurors all that time, there's a certain rapport that you have, right? And, it just seems very strange. And the last nail in the coffin to me was that I know it's a big like David and Goliath thing where, like, the congratulations, the little guy wins and the woman wins the settlement. But the big issue with me is, okay, can you think in reality, if this ever were to happen, some family of a guy that kills everybody, right, gets awarded $110 million, but then the families that are all like, totally annihilated, they get nothing from that settlement? That to me was weird.
Well, okay, so it's just because she was the one that sued, where the other, so you don't know the background. Maybe the other families are suing too.
But are you making stuff up to like compensate, like retcon this?
Well, I mean, there's also commentary on the little guy really doesn't matter. So, all right, so she was the wife of the stockbroker, the big chief stockbroker or whatever. But because he was the most powerful guy there that died, she was the one, that was able to sue her. There was a story about her and her husband and the tragedy that befell them, but you don't hear anything about the people who are working out there in the cubicles or whatever.
Yeah,
who died as well. So yeah, I mean, there's that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of problems with this. I mean, what else did you have to say? Or did you have a rating?
No, but that's the thing. Like the real like end of the movie is just like it puts a nail in the coffin. Like I mean, I was willing to tolerate that action sequence where like Rachel Weisz that attempted like mugging and all that stuff. And whatever the streetcar thing was. I mean, I can understand the desire to put some kind of action in it, but it was for the most part, a very bland movie. I didn't find it very strong. I find that it concluded on a very questionable note because, I mean, I always put things in relation to reality, and I'm like thinking there's no way in hell that this would have been, something to celebrate. And at the end of the day, it was very much a kind of happy ending that was kind of force fit, and again, my rating would be like at best a 2 out of 5, and that's just simply because of the acting.
Interesting. All right, so for me, like I was talking to Vince before we started recording, I like this movie for one reason really, and one reason only, is that it's just there's one scene in it for some reason that I find myself alternately fascinated by. And I don't even know if it's okay to like a whole movie based on one scene. It seems kind of like a weak reason to like a movie. Like, so I mean, I've watched this movie probably 5 or 6 times. It's probably my 3rd favorite Grisham movie. So I like The Firm. I like The Rainmaker is my favorite Grisham movie. It's my favorite book of his as well. And eventually I'll have us watch that because I really like that. And you'll hate that movie as well, Vince. That movie has Matt Damon, Danny DeVito, Daniel Glover. I'm trying to see who. I can't remember. I don't think there's anybody else. It's not a very big ensemble cast. Like unlike this one, where has a whole bunch. Like Jeremy Piven is in this movie. He plays one of the jury consultants.
Oh yeah.
So like, he's really a throwaway character. I mean, he has no significant. I mean, the only reason he's there is because he's trying to kind of to balance out the whole cast. So Gene Hackman plays the jury consultants for the defense, for the gun lobby. Yeah. Jeremy Piven is thrown in there just so that the plaintiff has a jury consultant. So he he has a lot of problems with Dustin Hoffman's character, Wendell Holmes, Wendell something or the other. I don't know. Anyways, there's a lot of problems. He doesn't get paid or whatever. He's just kind of there, and he ends up getting fired a couple times. Unnecessary drama, the whole thing. I mean, I don't like Jeremy Piven, but
Yeah, but
he's a known name that was just kind of thrown away in this movie because he
but back then he wasn't anybody, was he?
Oh, this is probably around the same time. All right,
Jay and Silent Bob, like that's the best thing I can think of, like that kind of stuff, man.
All right, so you said this movie came out in 2003, yeah?
Something like that, yeah.
So Old School came out in 2003.
Oh, okay.
He was in that movie.
Wow. Wow.
He was in a movie, The Family Man, with Nicolas Cage.
Man.
Yeah. So I mean, he really, he's never been a huge actor anyways. He's not. But he's another one of those guys that he has a name. He people know his name, especially because now he's in a TV show that's really popular called Mr. Selfridge. Anyways, it's a British show. You have to, I don't know, maybe you have to be British in order to understand it. I don't know. Anyways, so the scene that I like in this movie is towards the end. Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman are in a bathroom. Basically, it's after the key witness for the plaintiff has been disappeared. Dustin Hoffman, ambushes Gene Hackman's character in the bathroom, and they have heated words, and just I don't know why I like it. I mean, I can't even really explain it so much. Hey, there's Ricky. Holy shit.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We're done.
Nice of you to join us, Mr. Ricky.
Yeah, sorry. Big baby and the cranky computer. Okay, so where are you guys at?
I'm reviewing it. We'll get to you in just a second. Anyways, that's the reason why I like this movie. That one scene where basically Rankin Fitch, which is Gene Hackman's character, says, I don't give a shit, and what's more, I never have. It has some great quotable lines in it. Just that one scene. The rest of the movie is kind of throwaway for me, really. It's not. The book is one of his mediocre books because, like all of his books, the ending it just kind of falls off. It doesn't tell what happens to the character. It just it gets to the high point, the resolution or whatever, and then just it's done. Just like all of his books, basically. There's nothing. It doesn't really. It doesn't feel full. It feels like it could go on for another 2 or 3 chapters, and that's what the movie didn't really hit me that way. The ending, I didn't mind the ending. It was okay. But it was also, I mean, the whole thing, as Vince said, is very predictable how it was going to end. It was always going to be the good guy's going to win. But it was just a matter of how much money. So
I'm not sure if it was completely predictable because I was like, still, I don't believe that they should be saying that rich individuals should cash out and win based on this tragedy in light of everyone else. Like it was one of those things. Like no matter what the verdict, something you don't want to have happen happens, right? And I think that's why they put the Marine character to say, what the hell, man? She's rich, and why should all of my buddies who got arms and stuff blown away by guns, why should we just be okay with it, right? My life sucks, right?
Yeah, well, all right, so there's that whole, commentary, but I think if you're looking at it from a social commentary perspective, no matter who you wanted to win, everybody, I mean, the director or whatever goes and wanted to make the supreme bad guy not only Rankin Fitch.
Company.
Yeah, they wanted the gun company to be the bad guy, right? But in that, it's set up that way so that it is, you want the gun company to lose or whatever, but it's also, if that was their goal, they overplayed a little bit because you're much more likely to see Gene Hackman's character as the villain than the gun company because he's the guy who's, he's like the front man for the.
He's running the puppets. He's the puppet master.
Doing all the dirt digging.
All right, so I'd probably give this a 2.5, maybe 3 out of 5 is where I would
Okay.
Score this. And it's not. I never said this was going to be a fantastic movie. It's just that one scene that for some reason.
You watch, like, that is one hell of a long movie, man. It's a legal drama, so it makes it even longer.
Yeah. All right. So this movie is like an hour and.
No way, it's an hour.
It's like an hour and 45, 50 minutes long.
Oh man, that's got to be like Lord of the Rings, man. This is like this movie. No, seriously, was it?
No, it's Runaway Jury.
How long, man?
No, all right, so we're not good running time. Ricky, why don't you go and tell us what you thought of this movie? I'll look at the running time.
Okay, so for me, I like John Grisham books, and the actors in this movie, like you have John Cusack, you have Gene Hackman, Robert.
A little over 2 hours, Vince.
Not. Oh shit! What's the other guy's name? Dustin Hoffman. I think it's Hoffman, right?
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz. So. But for me, I like the movies. I mean, like, I usually like the movies based on John Grisham books. Like Matt, I found the ending kind of underwhelming. But for me, I think it's kind of funny because, like, especially with real life, you know, lately we've had so many, incidents where people just, go postal and, shoot up the place and stuff. So with this, her husband dies at the office, and so you you start off thinking, okay, so that's obviously going to be the good guy fighting against the big corrupt gun company. That's the bad guy, right? So then Gene Hackman comes in. He's, they're looking at blackmailing all the jurors, and so it's like that. But then you see that it's like there's Rachel Weisz, and then there's the juror John Cusack, who's sort of put in there, and they're playing both sides because they basically just want money, right? And so it's kind of like, the good wouldn't pay the money, you know what I mean? So then by them paying the money to get their verdict, it draws their morals into question. So they're less good than, the what you would think is the upstanding, you know what I mean? Like, who's standing on their morals. And it's sort of like the age-old, I'd rather be right and lose than do something that sort of brings my good into question, right? So here it sort of brings that down a bit so that it's not so clear-cut good and bad, you know what I mean? So it was a really interesting movie. Like I said, I tend to enjoy movies based on John Grisham books. The ending was a bit underwhelming. There's things that didn't make sense, but, like I've always said, those kind of things don't really factor into movies for me. I'm more along the line of, is it enjoyable for me? Do I get something out of it? I like more thrillers where it's not just, okay, let's sit back and just clue out while everyone, fights and shoots up the place. But yeah, for me, I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. It's something I'd watch again, but it's not something that's like on my, top 10 list of things to watch over and over and over.
I'd understand that. I'm right there with you. All right, so what's interesting, or maybe not so interesting, is this movie lost a lot of money. Or at least from the box office perspective. I mean, it was supposedly a $60 million budget. I mean, which is unsurprising because, I mean, it had, some really good actors in it. I mean, yeah, so, I mean, but it ended up earning $49 million worldwide. So, yeah. Yeah, all right, so here's some trivia for you, just before we move to the section. Did you guys know that they did a remake of The Firm?
No.
I did not know that. They did in 2012. There was a remake of The Firm. I've never watched it. It has a whole bunch of throwaway people in it. I've never heard of any of these people before. Josh Lucas, Natasha Callis. I don't know any of these people. Anyways, they definitely made a remake. That must have been the most under the radar John Grisham movie ever made, which is interesting. All right, anyways, so that was the movie. Moving on to the section, Vince, did you do anything fascinating this week other than what you normally do?
I'm dropping my success ratio to 50%, but I've just called a lot of the kids in the program, so you're welcome, society.
No more buildings with doors on the second floor.
Don't get me started, man. Don't get in trouble for the stuff I would say,
so,
man.
We'll take that as a no. All right, Ricky, what about you? You do anything fascinating this week?
Honestly, I would say it's probably going to be expected from me, but watching the Apple event, just because you guys know
you didn't get an invite? I mean, you weren't there. Johnny Ive wasn't sitting next to you in the front row, and
I think they lost my invite in the mail or something. I don't know what's up with that. But you guys know I had
really fast on that one, man.
You guys know I had the Pro, right? So yeah, this 9.7-inch Pro is making things really interesting for me. Because I mean, this year my MacBook Pro is, it's getting long in the tooth. But I'm thinking instead of upgrading, I might just get an iPad Pro and supplement it, right? So I don't know if I want to go with the bigger screen one again, or maybe the smaller screen one, is more portable and it has all the, it's got, I can use the pencil, it's got the nice resolution. It's lighter.
All right, so the small one makes sense, right? Because it's $599. You can't get a MacBook for that price.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That makes sense, okay? But the bigger one doesn't make any sense at all if you want to use it as a computer, because for another $100, whatever it is, you can get a full laptop. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have a touchscreen, but most people don't care about touchscreens.
I don't want, for me, it's MacBook Pro. That's the only MacBook.
So you wouldn't use a MacBook Air that's $999?
Oh, hell no. I've always...
I know it's been like 3 years, but we've had this argument before, Ricky. You don't make any sense.
Well, you know what?
You want to make another wager?
No, but we've talked about the MacBook Air, and right now I was telling Matt earlier that I got to blow $10,000 on like computer gear before the end of the month, and look at it now. No one wants to buy the MacBook Pro, the MacBook, but everyone wants to buy the MacBook Air because it's just better. Even though the MacBook is cleaner and smaller and thinner and beautiful, it doesn't even have a drive. It has no USB things, whereas the MacBook Air is a better machine, like through and through, all the ways, connectivity, everything. So I don't know who would ever want to buy it. So, but remember when you and I were making fun of Ricky about like who the hell would buy a MacBook Air? Look where we're at right now, man.
Yeah, it's the computer to buy. But all right. So I went into Best Buy helping a friend buy a computer, and he ended up buying a Samsung desktop instead. I tried to get him to buy like an iMac or whatever, but whatever. But I showed him the MacBook Air. He's like, oh, there's real, he said that's a cute woman's machine. Is his word for it. Like, I mean, granted, it was the pink one or the rose gold or whatever the hell it is they're calling it. Yeah, but that's the one that all college students want because it's light and then, I don't know. It was always the MacBook Pro for me, but I don't know. Yep. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where they're all going to be MacBook Airs. All going to have that same problem. Anyways, so Ricky was with Johnny Ive this week. I, on the other end of the spectrum, got rid of my iPhone and bought an Android phone.
Again.
Yeah. All right. So
this is the first time.
All right. Well, yeah, I've had Android before, but
what'd you get?
No, I got an S5. I'm really old. All right. So the way which we're at work, we have to have like a company phone, and in 2010 or something like that, we scrapped back BlackBerry and got rid of BAS, and we went to Android. But we also supplemented that with a mobile management device service that would allow us to use some iPhones. It was limited to a certain few that we put out in the field, and that's when I got my iPhone 5, because I didn't want an Android at all at that point, mainly because for some reason at that point I was still quite frightened by a huge screen. I mean, I didn't want like a 5 or 6 inch screen. It was, I mean, I got big man hands, but you know, I mean, these fuckers are huge, but I still don't want like a 6 inch screen. But my iPhone 5 like holds a charge for like, I don't know, 30 minutes, and it has to be recharged. It was time for something new. Anyways, I went with the GS5, which is the latest thing that they'll give out at work. And it's fine. I actually find that I really like Android. I'm finding that I like the bigger screen, but because this is a 5.1 inch screen, it's just a tad too big. I really think that the iPhone 6, you know, S or whatever, at 4.7 would probably be about the perfect size for me. But I can't get that, you know, at work or whatever. So, what I spent the week doing is going through and trying to find apps for my phone that kind of match up with the things that I used on iPhone. Like so, you guys know I've always been big on Twitter apps. Even though I don't use like Twitter, I never tweet, but I still like I follow my followers and stuff. Like I retweeted Vince the other day.
You like that one?
Yeah. So Plume is my Twitter app on there, and I've always liked. But I mean, even though they've caught up to the iPhone in terms of numbers, the design on Android is still quite lacking. It's just like the design. All right, so now that I've switched from Mac to Windows, I found that I despise the design of Windows apps. I mean, it's just I mean, it used to be okay. I didn't mind Windows 7 or Windows Vista or any of those. I didn't mind the design of the apps in there because, you know, they all were kind of unique. But now they're all just this flat, ugly design, and Android's kind of followed that in a lot of ways. And I don't care for the app design. It's still okay. I can stomach it because it's what I have to have, but I don't know. It's okay. And I've had this phone for 2 weeks now, and there's a big scratch right down the fucking center of the screen already.
See, the thing for me, because I ran I think I was using a Nexus 4. The problem for me with it was more because I was lacking the integration with all the iCloud stuff, right? Like the contacts, the calendar, the messages, and just trying to find something. Like there were all these apps that said that, you know, if you installed it on Android, it would actually pull in the stuff, but none of them fucking worked, man. I was like...
So the good news is I was never into the iCloud stuff because we couldn't... Because it was my work phone, we couldn't actually use that.
Yeah, that'll make it easier.
It's all proprietary stuff. So, anyways, that's what I did this week. I was still reading the Robert McNamara book, but I only got like 10 pages done this week because every time I had to put it away and have my phone in my hand, started looking for apps. So it's like every time you get a new phone, you gotta go through and get new apps and find what apps you gotta use. So, anyways, that is it for us this week. Next week we're going Back to the Future, apparently. And you guys are gonna kill me because I have never watched this movie.
What?
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. He'll like it. He'll like it. I think he'll like it.
Anyways, yeah, I've never watched Back to the Future. If you want to follow us on Twitter, I'm at MTWB on Twitter. Vince, who actually tweets the most out of everybody, which is hilarious if you've been following us for any amount of time, because Ricky and I are the ones that introduced him to Twitter, and he uses it more than both of us. Yeah. Vince is VWHY. Ricky is Ricky_Williams1. You can follow the podcast at Untitled Podcast on Twitter. If you want to email us, I'm not even going to give out that email address. That's just terrible. I need to find a new one. It's the insert name here show at gmail.com. I just don't want any numbers. I hate, Gmail, when you sign up for a new account, you got to get they like give you numbers or whatever. You know, if somebody else already has the name you want. Like, I don't want a number after our podcast name. Anyways, eventually we'll get that fixed. If you want to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Untitled Show. And we're also on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/The Untitled-Show. Show. It's a word. Hard to say word. Anyways, we will be back next week with Ricky and Back to the Future. Part 1.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.